Hello and welcome to Science Unscripted. It's Connor here.
And Gabe.
Going to start with an email, Gabe. You've got one for us.
Yeah, we've been off on Easter break in our own separate, independent ways over the last couple of weeks.
Well, that's true. I wasn't planning on talking about that, but you did what?
I played a lot of PlayStation. I'm into this trucking game, and there are like 20 different maps, and you can truck. You got to deliver all kinds of different cargo, whether it's lumber or metal or concrete or sand. You load it onto your truck, and there are all kinds of different trucks, and you drive around and bring stuff from A to B.
So a semi-truck simulator game.
Yeah.
Was your Easter week? That was your...
Yeah, you could say that. You could say that, yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you do?
Family vacation. The Alsace region of France. So kind of on the corner there with Germany and Switzerland. Very nice place to visit. Lots of things to do there. Mountains all around you.
Nice.
Good food, good wine. And in our case, a couple of kids who are at the phase, they're entering that phase of their lives where traveling or going on vacation with mom and dad is not that cool anymore.
Are we there yet?
Well, no, that was the younger. That's way younger. This is more like, why are we doing this? Why are we going on this hike through the Vosges Mountains? Why would one do that? Why can't we just kind of stay inside and hang out? Yeah, but a beautiful place to visit.
While
Anyway.
all that was happening, we got an email from Timothy in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and he was referencing something that we talked about back in January, I believe. The question was whether animals can think or feel. And Timothy writes that he was deeply moved by that discussion about whether animals can think and feel. Your question at the end, what do you know deep inside of you and why do you know it, stayed with me. Deep inside, I know that animals do think and feel. I say this not only from intuition, but from 16 years of living closely with my cat Chica, who recently passed away from kidney failure. Over those 16 years, we developed a form of communication that was entirely real, even though it was mostly nonverbal. She knew who I was. She knew my routines, my moods, my presence, and my voice. She anticipated feeding times, sought and gave comfort, expressed preference, curiosity, affection, and trust. She would look at me in a way that conveyed recognition, appreciation, need, and love that may be difficult to define scientifically, but it was unmistakable in lived experience. And this is when he gets into what we were discussing. This made me think about the assumption that language is required for thought. Humans often equate thinking with words, but some of our own deepest experiences are also nonverbal. Love, grief, recognition, and silent connection. A look between two people can communicate warmth, humor, understanding, and love without a single spoken word. Trying to fully define them may actually diminish them. And he writes, thank you for creating such thoughtful conversations that invite listeners to reflect on what science and lived experience can teach each other.
Thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Timothy, for those words.
Timothy. And yeah, probably going back through our podcast feeds to find that one.
Yeah.
Again, anywhere you get your podcast, Science Unscripted. I'm going to stick to language there because he's talking about words, what words can do and not do. And that is interesting. Sometimes trying to define something with language cheapens it, and then in a big way.
Yeah.
And then other times you're reading something and it gives words for a feeling that you've always had and you never knew how to define.
Different forms of understanding.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm going to hop into a study that I kind of hate what I think they were trying to do, but I love the outcome and I love thinking about it. This study begins, at least for our listeners out there, for you, Gabe, with a poem, and I want you to give it a zero from 1 to 10. Just give me your rating of this very short poem. I walk through the garden of my mind, picking flowers of different colors and scents. Some are fresh and bright, others are wilted and faded. Each one holds a fragment of my past, a moment, a feeling, a person.
What exactly am I judging? Do I like the poem?
Yeah.
I'm going to give that a 1 out of 10.
Really?
Yeah.
What are your standards for poetry? Why? Or just in a sentence, why?
It's too close to thoughts that I could easily have. For me, poetry that I really like, I cannot understand where it's coming from. It has to be like a mystery. What in the world is that? And despite not being able to understand it, also love it. Does that make any sense to you?
Yes, it does.
Those thoughts are too close to normal thought.
Yeah.
Almost.
Cliche.
Yeah. That I guess.
Banal.
Yeah.
Well, you gave it a 0 or a 1 out of 10, and I think the only thing lower would be a 0. But this poem in particular was generated by artificial intelligence, not a human being.
That's why I hated it so much. Yeah.
And the interesting thing about this study was either informing people about that or not, and looking at how they valued it based on knowing that or not. So the kind of premise here...
Oh, so people were asked, do you like this poem? And they knew that it was either fake or AI or not?
I'm going to get into that now
gotcha.
because they did a lot of different things. And what the study... When I said that I kind of hated it, it's because what it feels like this study was doing was like, look, we are pretty sure that there's a penalty that happens when people know something is created by AI. When it comes to the arts, when it comes to prose or poetry, if you tell the person in advance, you're about to get something, you're going to read something that was created by AI, they're going to dislike it more.
Now, of course.
Right?
Wow. Yeah.
That was, I mean, that's, I think human intuition tells all of us that already. And the reason I say that this study makes me a little uncomfortable is because it feels like they tried to dial up all these different metrics to figure out, okay, but how can we make them like it anyway? If we're going to
almost in defense of AI generated art, or?
And this is from the Wharton School in Pennsylvania in the United States.
A lot of business implications.
Yeah. So if businesses around the world are going to be using AI in a way that gets closer and closer to the things we feel are uniquely human, so the arts really, and not necessarily the utilitarian things. That is clear. We human beings are fine with utilitarian applications. If AI tells me how to plug in my new device and make it work, we're fine with that. Yeah. That's fine. But in the realm of poetry, stay away, right? So how do we get them to like it anyway? That was kind of the purpose of this, and they did a lot of different things. 16 different little experiments in total, 27,000 people grouped into 5 clusters. I'm going to talk about the clusters because that's what matters in this case. And the first cluster of experiments that they did here was trying to dial up things like emotionality or dial it down. Is if it's more emotional or less emotional.
So they're prompting the AI, write a poem that's very emotive or...
Right,
yeah,
right.
Okay.
And as you would kind of expect, when you find out that that's then very emotional and created by AI, right? People don't like that.
Yeah,
no, please don't do that. They also did that with...
Talk about revulsion, yeah.
Yeah, they also did that with negativity. What if it's positive, a positive story versus a negative story? People really don't like negative fiction, dark stuff written by AI, and I can kind of intuitively understand why. It's like you've got this machine making the world darker, or at least fictionally, the way I experience it. Yeah. They also then went from poetry into prose. They thought, well, okay, there's probably a difference. If you're going to have AI generate books that people read or buy and consume, people will probably dislike it if the AI uses the I form, the first person form. I walked outside and it was a beautiful sunny day.
Shut up.
Yeah, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. Your software, that's not true. And so if you're going to do it, then probably the third person. And that turned out to be slightly true, that people preferred, if it's going to be AI, then the third person. Yeah. And then they tried something else. What if it's not about people? So they had 3, and I'm just going to read the first one here. 3 different examples where first it was a person, and it goes like this. As the mid-July day began, with the sounds of distant lawnmowers and children playing, the gentle sunrise kissed the well-maintained suburban homes in the peaceful neighborhood. Alex made his way to Grandma Hazel's home, located at the end of a peaceful cul-de-sac, a 10-minute bike ride from his own. Okay, that's the human condition. It keeps going on. I'm not going to read the rest of it. The animal condition. As the mid-July day began, with the sounds of distant lawnmowers and children playing, the gentle sunrise kissed the well-maintained suburban homes in the peaceful neighborhood. Alex, a diligent border collie, made his way to Grandma Hazel's house. I don't know how that even works. Located at the end of a peaceful cul-de-sac, a 10-minute scamper from his own doghouse, right? And then the third one goes like this. As the day began, the children playing, the gentle double sunrise. Keep in mind, we had one sunrise before. The gentle double sunrise over the planet Zebon in the Zorlax galaxy kissed the well-maintained suburban homes in the peaceful neighborhood. We're in alien territory here. And it turns out that what they expected was kind of true.
Of those three texts, people like the last one the most?
Yes.
Okay.
So if AI is going to write fiction, it's more okay for it to be about aliens and slightly less okay to be about dogs, maybe, and definitely not really okay if you're going to try to talk about human beings, right? We reject that. And they kept dialing that up even more and went to robots, and we're almost most happy, you could say.
That's what I was going to say. So if it's about bots, then you could delude yourself into thinking that AI understands more about bots than I do, because I guess the thing that you value about a writer is that he or she understands what he or she is writing about.
Well, and there I would be okay with the I form. As I got turned on today by my owner.
I am a bot. If I is a bot, then fine. But not if I as a human being. Shut up, man.
My dusty CPU was
or a disciplined collie or what?
Yeah.
Or diligent.
So they had that. Like I said, we were just in part one there. I'm not going to go as detailed through all the other ones, but some of the other things they looked at is what if you have a sort of hybrid scenario. Hey, this was a human being fundamentally writing this, but with the assistance of AI. People do not like that. And the conclusion after all of these studies is there is just a gigantic penalty. And that's kind of made me happy. There's a gigantic penalty for disclosing the fact that something that we consider a very human form of art was created by a machine. And what the authors of this paper say at the very end here is that this emerging body of research suggests that consumers stand to garner enjoyment and value from AI-generated creative goods if only they remain unaware that AI was involved in the creation process. In this way, AI disclosure presents a thorny dilemma. Creators cannot be transparent about using AI in producing creative content without undermining appreciation for that very content, unless there are ways to reduce AI disclosure penalties.
The takeaway then is for all the people writing fiction out there, and I hope that you're not using an LLM or a ChatGPT or AI to do your creative writing. But if you are, do not tell anyone about it. Is that the takeaway?
Unfortunately, that is the conclusion. And part of the reason I want to talk about this is we talked months ago about a separate study which was using an earlier version of ChatGPT, 3.5 in that case. And in these experiments, they used various versions of ChatGPT 4 point something. Mm-hmm. And what that study months ago had already made clear is we can't tell. We human beings cannot tell, usually. If you get a book and you start flipping through the pages, you're not going to know if it was assisted. So we know we can't tell. We know that kind of morally there should be a disclosure, I think, if there's an author publishing a book and they've used AI, I feel like there should be a moral obligation to do so. And yet what this shows is we're probably not going to have that happen because it would...
Because you have no chance. If you tell people this is AI, they're not going to consume it.
Right.
They're not going to read it.
Right. And
I'd be angry at you, probably.
I'd be interested in what our listeners have to say on this, because this doesn't present a solution. It presents a dilemma.
Speaking of dilemmas, we are going to take a short music break here, and then after that, look at some of the maybe the most important social dilemma that exists. And in order to do that, we're going to go to a zoo, hang out with chimpanzees, and ruminate on yogurt?
Yogurt.
Greek yogurt?
Hi, my name is Kirsten Sutherland. I'm a comparative psychologist interested in cooperation, the evolution of cooperation, and I recently published a paper on chimpanzees in common pool resource dilemmas. Basically, we shoot food towards the chimpanzees from this ledge here.
You shoot food at them?
It's like so like food goes in here and then...
Am I imagining things, or are these chimpanzees now coming over because they heard you do that?
We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of them running over that one with the baby on his back?
There's 17 in the group, yeah.
This pinball machine gun thing that shoots food out to them is an extension, kind of, or is thematically connected to a paper that was just published in Communication Psychology. What was, let's start there before we try to understand what's going on now. What was the primary conclusion of that work?
Yeah, so basically I wanted to study a group-level social dilemma, so a situation where what's best for the individual is in conflict with what's best for the group. Okay, picture a pool containing 1 kilogram of 10% fat Greek yogurt, and there is a lid balanced on top of the pool with a number of sticks holding up the lid. And there were always the same number of sticks as there were individuals. So if there were 4 chimps, there were 4 sticks, 2 chimps, 2 sticks. And there always had to be 1 stick left in the pool to hold the lid up. So herein lies a dilemma where they can't all be eating at the same time. At least one of them has to be delaying their gratification for the benefit of the group.
Really random question. Greek yogurt? We're sure that every chimpanzee loves that equally?
Yeah, I did taste preference tests. I would have much rather used tomato passata, intense chopped tomatoes, you know, like a thick tomato base sauce.
I'm totally with the chimps on this. I like yogurt way better.
I was buying it all myself from the supermarket, and like sometimes they only have, 5 tubs of 10% fat Greek yogurt in the fridge, and so I'd have to buy those and then go to another supermarket and get more, and I'm doing all of this before 8 a.m. to get to the zoo on time. And then the person in my local supermarket said to me once, "Oh, you buy a lot of yogurt?" And I was like, "Yeah." I think I said, "It's for my work," because my German level was such that if I said, "It's for the monkeys at the zoo," I thought that would invite more questions that I was not able to answer.
And you said tolerant groups were the best at this? How did you observe that?
Yeah, it's more about the relationships between the individuals in the group. We found that broadly tolerance had a positive effect on the latency until resource collapse, so how long until the lid closed. And we also found that if the highest ranked individual in the group had the lowest relative payoff in the group, so if the one individual that was sitting out more happened to be the highest ranked individual, this was predictive of group success.
If the most powerful in the group is also very altruistic toward the group, is willing to give up his or her yogurt just because they have, they're a good-natured chimp, then the group's going to have much more success with getting, spoonfuls of yogurt.
Yeah, sure. I think altruism's a strong word. It could also just be apathy, or maybe an absence of competition in that combination. So like a very competitive dominant would go in and take the stick immediately, and one that can tolerate others having it, the group's going to do better overall.
And one of these chimps had to make this decision, or was there pressure on that chimp? Hey, look, you're not going to get any yogurt this time, buddy. And you're just going to like that? Or how did it work?
Well, yeah, we really expected, so chimpanzees are very hierarchical. They have quite a clear linear dominance hierarchy. We expected the one that was often sitting out to be the lowest ranker. They maybe wouldn't want to approach because the others are eating. And we did see this, but in those cases, the higher ranking ape would just take 2 sticks. So it actually works much better if the dominant is the one who wants to sit out.
Why look at this? Why put a bunch of yogurt in front of 2 or 4 chimpanzees?
I don't want to sound too grandiose, but a lot of the most pressing problems that humanity is currently collectively dealing with are essentially social dilemmas.
And what could we 4, if we were sitting here in front of our yogurt, what could we learn from those chimpanzees for how to solve some of these social dilemmas that you're talking about?
Well, I think we could all be more tolerant. That's definitely a nice message. But I really think the more interesting thing about this study is that it highlights how chimpanzee cooperation is quite different from human cooperation. We found that the most successful groups very clearly are getting unequal payoffs. There's always one who gets very little. So the human concept of fairness or the importance of fairness is not there.
It's almost like the concept of human fairness is getting in the way of us solving our problems, or because it seems like the chimps are able to do it because one guy gets screwed, or one of them has the unequal payout, and we don't do that. Human groups can't do that because we're so fair. Is that somehow stymieing our ability to solve some of these dilemmas?
Yeah, maybe in some situations, but I think that mechanism exists so that we can cooperate. We are much more cooperative than chimpanzees. Like, I met all you guys for the first time 30 minutes ago, and we're not fighting. We're not like clawing each other's faces off.
Yet.
Yeah, we'll see. Because people don't tolerate unfairness, it motivates people to be fair in situations where we need to cooperate. It's not so easy to exploit people.
And that would mean if in the human world, if it were clear that hierarchy had been established, this country will get the resources and that country will always get screwed. That would make it easier for us to solve our problems, but would be fundamentally unfair. I mean, it's almost like a question of what's better, to have our problems solved, or for everything to be fair and to be like permanently in a quagmire.
I mean, have you heard the term "the tragedy of the commons"? It comes from this paper, Garrett Hardin, in like 1970 or 79 maybe. Hardin basically talks about, or he mentions that privatization is a solution to the tragedy of the commons. If you make it so that only an exclusive group or set of individuals can access a resource, it won't be destroyed. But this is unjust. And there's a quote from this article: "Injustice is preferable to total ruin," or something like that. I don't know. It's very situational. It depends on a number of factors. And there's a reason it's a social dilemma. Like, there's no satisfactory solution.
And that was Kirsten Sutherland, who did a lot of the work she was talking about there with the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Biology, spending a couple weeks there, as I understood it, on a kind of Spartan platform, brick.
Looking down at the chimps, 17 chimpanzees at the Arnhem Burgers Zoo in Arnhem, the Netherlands.
Burger meaning citizen in that case. Yeah.
If you guys are ever rolling through the eastern Netherlands, wow, a visit to that zoo should be on your list.
And the rainforest cafeteria.
They create 5 different ecosystems that are believable when you're walking through the rainforest part. Like you said, you've been over there.
Oh, that put me instantly back in Malaysia. In the jungles of Malaysia, it wasn't just the humidity. There's a certain combination of smells.
Yeah, because of all the native birds that they have inside this ecosystem, you feel like you're there. What a discussion! And there was one thing that you guys couldn't have gotten from listening to our words, because for me the profound impact came from watching the chimps, the chimpanzees, and the way that one of them, after the feeding began, he took out a bamboo stick. And I could see that it was bamboo because of the color. When bamboo dries up, it becomes yellow. He took that cane and started whipping one of the other chimpanzees for no apparent reason. And then we asked, why did he do that?
It was so shockingly
Why did
violent.
he do that?
Yeah.
And Kirsten so matter-of-factly said, "Oh, that's just what they do." He's establishing. He's the alpha he's the dominant one, the strongest one, I guess.
Oh, and here I have to
And he just does that from time to time.
jump in because after we left, I received a message on Telegram from Kirsten. I'd been communicating with her beforehand and then after, and it was a female doing the whipping. Yeah, you and I had both kind of defaulted to assuming that it was a male.
That's even better. But she said that was one of the dominant chimpanzees, and they just do that from time to time in order to establish that hierarchy that she was talking about, because that hierarchy allows them to solve these problems. Then I'll take the problems, because we were laughing about how that caning happened, because it seemed so. It was so inexplicable why that chimp did that. And that's just the way that things do that. I'll take the problems, and I would rather live in a world where that doesn't happen. We're not allowed to do that because it's unfair and it's ridiculous. It's ridiculously unfair. I want that world where that doesn't happen to us, or where I'm not allowed to, if I am the dominant one, and I'm clearly not, but where it would be completely okay for me just to go and whip someone. Because after we saw that, for the hour afterwards, we were laughing about it and imagining as we walked through the zoo, just taking a cane and whipping the people around us just to establish our dominance. Thank God we aren't that.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember back to in university, there was this one philosopher who wrote about the master-slave dialectic in human relations. And the masters in our world are the ones that were able to engage in this fight for life or death, the ones that weren't afraid to fight. And I remember thinking, that's not going to work, Hegel. That is not going to work. And we went through some totalitarian regimes and some pretty awful stages of history that have proven it. We are better than that. We are better than the chimpanzees.
That's kind of the question still, though.
Sorry for the rant.
No, in my mind. Are we? Or is the chimp picking up the stick? Obviously, that's not happening in the DW cafeteria. That would be madness if we're all eating and somebody sees my soup and wants my soup and whips me in the back.
Yeah.
That it doesn't happen there.
Yeah.
But I guess I'll leave it as a question for all of you, because Kirsten very, very respectfully stuck to the science. She didn't want to speculate and talk about global affairs. But are we better than that at the highest levels of human interaction at the nation state level, or is it a reflection of a bunch of chimpanzees whipping each other and trying to get the most out of the yogurt bowl? That's still, for me, it's the reason I drove there. I don't have the answer to it yet, and that's okay. Do you out there? If so, let us know. su@dw.com.